Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside David Aragona. We have a preview for you right here of race number 9 on Saturday at Oaklawn. It's the Renaissance for three-year-olds, and we're going to have a heavy favorite in this one, David, as we take a look at the field, where the number 4, Kale's Angel, is coming out of the Smarty Jones and cutting back. Kale's Angel won the Advent Stakes back in December over 2 other rivals in this race and earned a 93 Beyer speed figure in winning that race. So if he can get anything back comparable to that number on the cutback, I think he's going to be really tough. And I'm sure I'm going to once or twice at least call him she, because I don't know why I always do that with Kale's Angel. I want to say she with him. So he definitely looks like the one to beat in here, right?
Well, there is a she in this race. Got to wait for Wisconsin Gal, though.
Exactly.
Kale's Angel, he just looks very tough for this group to overcome if he's able to run back to that Advent score. He is coming back on relatively short rest for this race, having competed in the Smarty Jones just 14 days ago. But it does seem like Peter Miller has found a really nice spot for him to pick up another stakes win.
Let's take a look at the pace projector from Timeform US. They have El Dandy up front, who tried the synthetic race last time out. You can probably put a line right through that. He's been very, very quick. To the outside, they've also got Wildncrazynight and kind of that next tier along with the inside runners. So is this surprising to you at all, or who do you think we could see up front?
No, I think El Dandy's got to go towards the front end. We'll see how long he can last. The number 2 Wisconsin Gal, the filly, she does have plenty of early speed herself. The one time she faced El Dandy, didn't get off to the best start that day. So if she breaks cleanly this time, maybe she's one that can be forward as well. I don't think we have to worry too much about where Kale's Angel is placed, Gino, because he did get a good stalking trip when he won the Advent, but he's shown the ability to rate on turf, and he's just shown such finishing speed in his sprint races that you have to think he'll be tough wherever he comes from.
Yeah, he seems to have some real versatility to him. So let's meet the field for the Renaissance here. We'll start with the number 1, Perfect Magic. He could be a horse that shows a little more speed this time, especially from the inside draw. He had a slow start in that last race. He did make a 3-deep move from 5th up to 3rd, but he was just no match for the top 2 when they went on with it. Kale's Angel was the winner that day, and then Innovator, who finished 2nd, came back to win, broke his maiden next time out with an 87 Beyer speed figure. He's entered this weekend in the Lecomte over at Fairgrounds and probably be setting the pace from the inside in there. So Perfect Magic coming off that 3rd place finish in the Advent. What do you think about his chances here?
It's just hard to watch that Advent and want any of the horses that finished behind Kale's Angel that day because he was so dominant in victory.
Yep.
And yeah, Perfect Magic did have to do some work to get into position that day, but he got into really good position on the far turn and just had no answer through the stretch that day. Relatively lightly raced, but he would need a big step forward to turn the tables on the favorite.
The filly Wisconsin Gal took 6 tries to break the maiden, and it was against restricted maiden special weight runners at Churchill Downs. Following that, she actually did face the boys. A slow start, really no match. Then she was part of an early pace last time out at Turfway on the synthetic, so not in the best of form since breaking the maiden and stepping up and facing a little bit tougher.
Yeah, the start really did her in when she faced the males in the Ed Brown 2 back, and last time it was on synthetic. So I guess she's had some excuses since she stepped up against winners, and she earned a respectable 72 Beyer when she did break her maiden. Just feels like El Dandy is going to be breathing down her neck if they try to get aggressive early, and she's just facing a much tougher rival in Kale's Angel than she's ever met before.
3 Echoes had 1 career debut and then came back in his 2nd start and was 3rd in the Tremont. Even in the 3rd start, finished a pretty good 3rd in the Sanford, but just hasn't really progressed since then, David, early on in the career. Most recently was 4th, well beaten behind Kale's Angel and was behind Perfect Magic. So it's kind of like what you were talking about. And watching that race, it would be tough to really want to improve 3 Echoes so much to get the better of the rival to his outside.
Yeah, and I just don't like horses with this profile who run their best career races in May and June of their 2-year-old seasons. It just feels like he has not gone on developing since then. And a lot of times the results from that early in a juvenile campaign just don't really bear out later on. And it feels like that's turned out to be the case for 3 Echoes.
Kale's Angel actually broke his maiden on the turf, but his coming out party was really the Advent Stakes when he earned that 93 Beyer speed figure. He beat a horse named Innovator. Innovator was the heavy favorite that day because Innovator was coming out of a race where he almost beat Barnes, the very highly regarded Baffert runner. and Kale's Angel loomed up and just went right on by Innovator, was kind of putting the pressure on him. And when they asked Kale's Angel, he just put that rival away, and Innovator came back to win very nicely out of this one. So just visually pretty impressive. And that was actually his first dirt sprint. That might be what Kale's Angel has just wanted to do all along, David. So there may be even some upside with this horse.
Yeah, and he's by complexity out of a Malibu Moon mare, so maybe he was supposed to be sprinting on the dirt all along. And I mean, you mentioned Innovator. He's not in this race. This probably would have been a logical spot for him, but they're taking that shot in the Derby prep. I mean, even if you swapped Innovator in for Kale's Angel, Innovator would be odds on in this race. And Kale's Angel absolutely smashed him in the Advent. He didn't even run that badly in the Smarty Jones, going a distance that's probably too far for him. You're not going to get 3 to 5. He could be close to 1 to 9 and looks it.
Yeah, and the Smarty Jones, too, was a race on paper that looked like there was a lot of speed in there. So just a tough race shape for him the way it's set up. This should be a much better spot. If you watch these videos, you can tell that David and I are usually trying to take swings against horses like this, but Kale's Angel is pretty tough in this spot. The number 5, Piquant, did have to drop in for maiden claimers to get the win, but the last 3 races are not bad, in particular the last 2 since moving into the David Jacobson barn. You can see the speed figures improved quite a bit. And after Kale's Angel, the rest of this field isn't the strongest group in the world. So I can understand you take a shot with a horse like this, could absolutely hit the board in a spot like this. What about Piquant in here?
His maiden win at Turfway was visually impressive. I mean, he ran down the center of the course that day after making a big wide move and won off impressively against weaker competition than this, but he stayed on decently, getting back on the dirt last time, running up to a similar level. So I think the surface is okay for him. And as you mentioned, I mean, there are a lot of horses in this race that are kind of untrustworthy to move forward. And there's also plenty of speed signed on if the 1, 2, and 6 go out. So maybe Piquant can pick up some ground late.
El Dandy showed speed, winning back-to-back races against softer company in October and November. Tried synthetic, tried a stakes race in the last 2. Didn't really fire in either of those, but definitely feels like part of the pace in here.
Yeah, he'll be forward. He's had plenty of chances at this point, the most experienced member in the field. It's just hard to really build a case that there's more upside here, and he would need a big step forward to get close to Kale's Angel at the end.
I've got to give a shout out to Steve Martin and to Dan Aykroyd, a couple of wild and crazy guys, just like our producer, Bobby. I know he's a wild and crazy guy. Wildncrazynight is a New Jersey bred who took 3 starts to break the maiden, but that win at Delaware last time out was not bad. And the race that I'm kind of intrigued by, David, was actually the one before that, where he actually just missed to a horse named JJ Zozo, who came back in his next start to win the Smoke Glacken at Monmouth by 8.5 with a 77 Beyer speed figure. So that was a good effort, even though it was against New Jersey breds. He lost to a nice horse that day who came back and franked the form with the outside draw. This is one of the horses who I think does have some upside. I don't know if he can beat Kale's Angel, but overall, I could see him moving in the right direction. I like drawn to the outside where he can show some speed or maybe sit off a little bit. He was one of the horses in here that I had some positives and not necessarily kind of scratching my head a little bit about.
Yeah, as a Jersey bred myself, I'll try to give this one an extra look. And I think you can build a bit of a case for this horse. I mean, you mentioned the strength of that maiden win 2 back actually turned out to be a fairly decent Jersey bred maiden race that he just barely lost to JJ Zozo. And when I watched that last race at Delaware, Gino, yes, he was facing much weaker competition, but this horse was just toying with those runners. I mean, he was flicking his ears back and forth through the lane like he was just waiting for somebody to challenge him. He was better than the length and a quarter margin of victory would suggest that day. Can he take that step forward to be competitive with a horse like Kale's Angel? I'm a little skeptical of that, but I do think a 4-7 exacta looks pretty good in here.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, he got challenged on both sides at the end of that race, and he just never looked like he was going to get beat. He was just messing around with them. And as we move to our selections in here, I'll give a shout out to my grandpa. His numbers, I'm not a numbers guy, David. I don't know if you are, but he would be smiling with us because he loved to play the 4-7 exacta boxes. And one thing that he didn't pass down to us, he was about as chalky a player as you'll find. So this would have been one of the exacta boxes that was right up his alley, boxing 2 of the chalks in here and hoping for the best. So we're both going to go 4-7 on top. You'll put the 5 in the 3rd spot and then round it out with Perfect Magic.
Yeah, we like to search for prices, but sometimes that clever angle just isn't there to be discovered. And I'm going to chalk out with Kale's Angel as well.
Yeah, very curious to see how this talented runner will, come back to sprinting on the dirt. So Kale's Angel is the one to beat. However, you're going to stack him up at Oaklawn on Saturday. We wish you the best of luck.